Well, hello and welcome. Over the past few weeks, I've been looking at the many bays and beaches of Porthcawl, but today I'm going to look at the darker side of this coastline, the shipwrecks. I'm starting today's walk here at Sker Point. That's spelled S-K-E-R. It's derived from a Viking name, and that lies to the west of Porthcawl. And I'm walking the short distance, about 3 miles, down to Porthcawl Harbour. During the summer months, when the sun's shining, those beaches and sea appear really calm and inviting. But when the Atlantic storms roll in, and combined with the high tides of the Bristol Channel, the weather and sea state can change very dramatically and very quickly. So I'm starting here at Sker Point, and this is the site of one of the worst maritime disasters in modern history, the wreck of the Samtampa. On the 23rd of April 1947, the Samtampa ran aground and the Mumbles lifeboat was launched. During that night, the 39 crew of the ship and the 8 volunteer lifeboat crew all drowned. I won't go into details about the disaster, as I've made a dedicated video, and I'll put a link to that below, where it wasn't just the Samtampa which met their demise on these dangerous rocks. A number of ships have run aground, especially in the 17th and 18th century during the days of sail. One of these old sailing ships which met their doom at Sker was a French ship, the VAINQUEUR. It was en route from Lisbon back to France, carrying a cargo of lemons, oranges and Brazilian hardwood, when it encountered a storm on the 17th of December 1753. It must have been quite far off course, because the captain mistook the Bristol Channel for the English Channel. It ran aground that night at Sker Point, and unfortunately the captain, his brother and a passenger all drowned. Luckily, 8 other crew members did survive. Eyewitnesses tell of up to about 400 local people, including the former owner of Sker House, was seen looting the ship and stealing the cargo. And that does tie in with a story I found when I was making a video about Sker House. The former owner was alleged to be a wrecker, luring ships to their doom along this stretch of coastline. The CATERINA ran aground here on the 27th of December 1782. They were so off course, they thought they were off the coast of the Isle of Wight, and they hadn't run aground at Sker. They thought they were on the Portsmouth bank. In their testimony, they said the following: "We got ashore and were told by the owner of the house," that must be Sker House, "that we were on Sker rocks in the Bristol Channel. The morning at 7, we went to the shore and found the ship aground in the middle of the rocks, entirely out of water. At the same time, a group of people turned up, the local Porthcawl people, and started kicking us and hitting us with sticks. So we had to seek refuge in the cabin. We managed to rescue some of the cargo, including gold and some boxes of coral. We abandoned the ship and had to take refuge in the house again." As a friendly little welcome from the locals of Porthcawl. Another vessel which was lost at Sker Point was the Flying Fish, a single-masted ship which ran aground on Christmas Eve, 1872. But before I leave Sker Point, I'm just going to walk over to the commemorative plaque which commemorates the Samtampa disaster. I've now made it to Rest Bay, and about a third of a mile out to sea lies the wreck of the steel-hulled Kendi. It sank on the 27th of August 1928 en route from Cardiff to Swansea. It was a short trip and it was carrying gravel. When it sunk, it gave its position, but unfortunately Trinity House never were able to find the wreckage, so it's lying out there somewhere. I'm now getting very close to town, and I'm at the end of Lochs Common. And on the 4th of October 1917, a wooden schooner, the Jane Knox, had just left Briton Ferry with a cargo of coal, and it got caught in a southwesterly gale and ended up being wrecked on these rocks. It resulted in the loss of the ship and the drowning of the 4 crew on board. The Jane Knox ran aground on Hutchwns Point, which was the exact same position as the wooden sailing ketch, the Empire. That ran aground a few years earlier, May 1913. I finally made it down to Porthcawl Harbour, that's Porthcawl Pier, and behind it is Sandy Bay. And at least 15 ships have been wrecked in this area, including 2 that were wrecked trying to enter the harbour, and they ended up being smashed against the breakwater. One of those ships that were wrecked against the breakwater was the wooden brigantine, the Henry Andorra. It was wrecked trying to enter Porthcawl Harbour on the 5th of Feb 1869. Other ships wrecked were the Sage, a wooden sailing ketch carrying a cargo of roofing slate from North Wales. It was wrecked in a westerly force 7 gale in December 1906. The William Miles was a wooden bark which was stranded on Sandy Bay on the 9th of August 1883. The Porthcawl lifeboat made 2 trips to rescue the crew, which included the captain's wife. Not so lucky was the Edmund, which was driven ashore in a fierce gale on the 3rd of March 1897, and unfortunately the 3 crew members drowned. On the 25th of February 1855, the 3 crew of the wooden schooner, the Welcome, suffered the same fate. So that was my little walk from Sker Point in the west, 3 miles along the coastline, to Porthcawl Harbour. And I think it's clear from the number of shipwrecks just on this short stretch of coastline how dangerous the Bristol Channel can be, especially in the olden days before modern navigation equipment. Hopefully in the next few weeks I'll have time to do a video on Porthcawl Harbour and how that's changed over the years. But in the meantime, you can catch up on some of the other videos I've mentioned coming up at the end of this video, and I'll see you in one of those. So that's a bye from me. Bye.